Hey, everyone. Welcome to a special Simply Felicity. I know you're thinking, it's Monday morning, Felicity. What do you think you're doing? Listen, I'm getting your week started off right. I was so excited when my guest said that he would grant me an interview this morning. And I thought, you know what? I can't pre-record this and put it in the can. I'm just excited. I just gotta go. I've asked so many different musicians to be on the show with me, and they always say yes, and then they don't do it. And this guy is a man of his words. So I'm just really thankful and appreciative and excited to introduce you all to independent music artist and founder and producer of Streetlight Sounds. Guys, this is Jay Crum. Welcome to Simply Felicity.
Hey, how's it going? I'm glad to be here.
So glad to have you. So, Jay Crum is from Omaha, Nebraska. Is that right?
Yes.
Born
Yeah.
and raised, or?
No, born in Detroit, but grew up in Omaha, Nebraska.
And you have stayed.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So, I found out about Jay Crum on Twitter. And the person who shared you, actually, it's kind of interesting that I met you this way, because about 15 years ago, his name is Seth Hurd. And I was an actor at the time, and I was learning from some different people how to not wait around for the phone to ring, but to do what I could do for my own career. And he was telling me, Felicity, the music, he's not a musician, but he interviews musicians. And he said the music industry is now also a blue collar industry where you can actually do the work, create a tribe, and like have your own career. You don't have to wait around to be discovered anymore. Right. But he's like, the industry has really changed. Yeah. And so he is actually the one who introduced me to you, and you have the very same message, which I think is very encouraging to people. And until maybe if they realize eventually they don't want to do the work. But in the beginning, it's very exciting.
Right. It's always hits that, that that one wall where it's like, oh, wait, like this is
when you said it's up to me, you meant not just like here in my head.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So how did you kind of stumble upon the things? Because you're not just a musician, but you teach this, you do some, what is it, coaching, mentoring? Yeah. And so how did you, what was your journey to finding this out yourself?
Man, so a lot of success, but even more failure. I think learning to be able to accept no, or sorry, not accept no, but learning to be able to hear no, and press through anyway. And just seeing, I think like almost divorcing the idea of this is what a music career is supposed to look like, right? So I think, we kind of glamorize it and almost romanticize it in a way of like, oh, it's going to be like this, and I'm going to have millions of fans, and I'm going to be on the biggest stages, and I'm going to be, I'm gonna be doing all of these things. Like this is what we think like full-time music looks like.
Right, like mostly performing.
Right.
Just the singing, writing.
Yeah, I put an album out, and everybody's just in line to get my stuff, and streaming it, they're downloading it, they're buying merch, is selling out all the time. Like that's just kind of how we feel like this thing is supposed to look like. Um, and so I think for me, it was like, okay, let's get real, right? Most That's not going to happen for most people, right? But that does not mean that um, we can't still have, a great career with, you know, uh, with your tribe, right? And finding
Mm,
your tribe and building depth with them, and not necessarily always casting a wide net, right? But the net that you do cast, you're building relationships with them. They stay around. You get deeper into your story, and um, you know, and you can establish a pretty successful career doing that. Um, and I've seen it work for me. I've seen it work for the people that I've worked with, the people that I've helped coach. Um, and I'm always using examples of different artists who kind of went that way first, and then eventually it grew into
mm.
something, um, something crazy, but it always started with, hey, I'm about building depth and building, real relationships, and building, you know, and serving my tribe,
Love that.
first and foremost. So
Who are some examples of artists like that that
yeah.
started independent?
Yeah, so a good example, I think, of somebody who I think has done a great job of building like depth. They weren't necessarily independent when they started out, or well, they were. Everybody was independent when they started out, but when they first kind of came on the scene, is NF, right? So
Mm.
I'm not like the biggest like NF like super fan or anything like that, but I do really like how he approached it, right? Because it was a thing of, hey, um, he had a great intro. Then he just continued to give content about his life, and he kept building more depth and more depth and more depth, to the point where he dropped the same day Chance the Rapper dropped,
Oh, wow.
and he outsold Chance the Rapper.
Wow.
Now, which is crazy, because like
That is crazy.
if I walk down the street, there's gonna be a bunch more people who are gonna know who Chance the Rapper is, and they're gonna know who NF is. But because of the depth that he built with his fans, and because of how passionate those fans have become,
Wow.
because of how he's continued to just serve his core, um, he he was able to do that, where they're like, no, we're gonna make this happen for you.
That's
Um,
awesome.
Another great example is Indie Tribe,
Okay.
with No Big Deal and John Keith and Mowgli the Iceberg. They're all part of this collective. DJ Mike LV, and so they did a great job of like, yo, we're serving our core. So like, they opened up a Discord channel, and all of their fans are all in one little like their super fans are all in one central place where they're building community, and they're talking, and they're discussing things, and they're giving them early access and exclusive access, and all these
Yeah.
things, to all the way to the point where they outsold J. Cole uh
My
on
goodness.
on their on iTunes, and
Wow.
then they charted on Billboard, and
There
so
is a lot of disruption happening,
yeah,
actually. As
right,
you're talking, I don't know if you're familiar with Tom McDonald.
yeah, yeah.
Yep, Tom McDonald and this other guy, oh, Bryson Gray.
Hmm.
There are people that are starting to top the charts. They're just coming in very niche,
Hmm.
very niche,
Very niche, yeah.
actually. And it's like you're talking about just serving, super serving that tribe. I remember I saw a YouTube video with, oh my goodness, how can I forget this guy's name? The guy who plays Madeir.
Oh, Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry,
Yeah,
and he talks about that, like don't just serve your audience, but like super serve your
yeah,
audience, right?
yeah.
Identify what that audience is and
Absolutely.
serve them. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. And so so I had reached out to you because you had a really cool post on Twitter, a little thread talking about starting your weight loss journey
Hmm.
and noticing the similarities between like that journey as well as building a music career.
Yeah.
How's that going for you, by the way?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. You know,
I mean,
try
this
to
was
eat
like
healthy.
5 days ago you posted
Yeah,
it, or
yeah,
no, like a couple weeks.
yeah. No, no, it was 5 days. It
Oh
was
yeah,
like about a week
September
ago when I
29th is just 5 days ago.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I posted it. Yeah, I posted that, and but yeah, I noticed the correlation because when I talk when it's just it's always, I always hit this wall with independent artists to where it's they're like, oh man, I love what you're doing, I love what you're saying, like this is really really cool, let's do some consultations, I would love. And so then we do it, and then like when they find out all the things you got to do, right, it's this thing of like, I don't want to do, one of my best friends, I hate rollouts. I just want to be able to release music and people support it. And unfortunately, like it doesn't work that way. You got to super serve your audience, right? You got to super
Yeah,
serve your core, your fan base. You got to make sure you're doing that. And it's about building relationships. And so, uh, if you're not doing that, or if you don't feel like doing that, like that doesn't matter. You still like you still got to make it happen. Like just as with working out, I don't feel like getting up at 6 a.m. in the morning and going to the gym. Like that's not fun for me right now. Like that's not. Maybe eventually it'll become fun and become like a second nature and everything like that. But right now, that's not fun. You know what I mean? It's not fun to like pass by my favorite like the dessert spot and be like, nah, fam, you can't go there right now. we got some work to do.
yes,
And so but it's these things that you set up that um, and habits that you form that are going to make a huge difference later. So we got to really really focus on those small things
yeah.
in order
Yeah.
to prepare for those big moments. I just
It's
know.
really,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Well, I was just going to say, it really is about proving that you are your biggest fan.
Yeah.
It has to become that, right? Like when you're wanting other people to believe in you more than you believe in you, that's just like not a sustainable thing. And that's something else I saw in the correlation between these
Mm-hmm.
things. Like if you believe in the message that's on the inside of you, then you'll serve it by doing the things that will serve the message, serve
Absolutely.
your audience. And it's got to be the same thing with the weight loss. You can't just like, I know everyone wants to wake up one day and be whatever,
Right.
right? But it's just not how it works. You have to be that cheerleader for yourself and making those small decisions.
Yeah.
So,
100%. hundred
yeah.
percent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long would you say, how long have you really been in the music game?
So I think so. I've been making music for a long time, but I figure like when I really started getting serious and was like really like trying to make sure my business was right. 2014.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So you know.
Because I
Uh,
see that you've definitely, grown to this place with your audience
mhm.
where now your latest release, you were able to release something pretty personal
Yeah.
and somewhat intense.
Mhm.
But you've built right to
Right.
that place where you found your niche and a place to speak these things out. So I just wanted to show a little bit of it if I could.
Yeah, that's all right. Go ahead.
I'll show a little bit of the video and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, awesome. So I uh, could have prepped that and talked at the same time, but I didn't. Anyway, here it is.
All good. All right.
Okay. It's a coming, everybody. And I didn't see the button to share the sound, so tell me if you don't hear it, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear it.
All right, awesome.
Uh, daily I've been questioning on my traditions. Like, is my mindset just a byproduct of my religion? If I continue in my life without a pot to piss in, my politics ain't lining up, that's when I found the distance. I brought my fist up and I probably put it in the air. And then they tell me that I'm artist, it should be aware. Ain't trying to step in your cathedral with my nappy hair. I see your Jesus European, his complexion fair. How does it feel to know his skill was right down his mind? I know some pastors that be triggered if they heard that line. Like, why you make it black and white? Well, I experience the black nights within the walls of your creation. Been fighting to find it like you're blind. Yeah, Jesus ain't no friend to me. Yo, don't continue your kingdom like supremacy. They manipulate the scripture just to paint a tainted picture. Then present you with some truth so we can tear down all your fictions.
All right. Woo!
Yeah.
Coming in hot.
Right.
Coming in hot. So that is, I just, I was so interested to talk to you about this. I, I've had a different sort of relationship with Christianity than you have. I could tell that through Twitter, some of the spiritual abuse even that you've, endured and everything like that. But I know, like, one of the most painful things for me in my story, and even in my racial healing story, is that some of the most painful experience I've had are with other Black people.
Okay.
Telling me that I talk white. They're going to pull my Black card for things that I did when I didn't even know what that was or what they were talking about or anything. And it just feeling like left out. So that, put me in a very different space in my relationship racially. Never hated being Black, never hated myself, like loved me. I didn't know what was wrong with those people. But, the churches that I grew up in were predominantly white. And I think because I was having these strange interactions with some Black people, race was a different thing for me. So I just related to Jesus and God like differently. I needed it for my own to be able to get through what I was doing. So whether he was white, I mean, I saw in the Bible how it describes Jesus. So I just figured those artists were just doing whatever they wanted to do. But for me, like, God was more of a spirit, and I didn't really care about any of that stuff. So, but what I wanted to say was, one of the most painful things for me was people telling me that I didn't experience what I did, or that I didn't feel what I did. And so I never want to be in that space of telling people that because their experience was different than mine, that it didn't happen.
Right.
Like, that's so insane. And I think we find ourselves in that space a lot because, the divisiveness of society right now.
Right.
So I really kind of relish the opportunity to talk to someone with a different experience, like in a healthful way, to just like show people it can be done.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah.
But yeah, talk to me about, what led up to that. And I know that, you speaking out your truth has been a blessing for other people, because I know me speaking mine has helped others.
Yeah.
So I would have to imagine it has been as well.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, I've been through some of that as well, especially growing up in school. Of, hey, you talk too white, or you're, things like, oh, you get good grades, oh, that's white. Like, it's just weird, like stuff like that. So I definitely been there before. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
But as far as what you're asking, like, what brought me to the point of writing this song?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, so I live in Omaha, Nebraska. So it's a very our city especially is a very like segregated city.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of like even there was like red lighting that went on for the people who are watching who may not know what that is. Red lighting was something that was going on. Man, I'm trying to figure out the time frame.
Oh, in the 70s, like with being able to buy homes and things.
Right.
Okay.
And so in Omaha, Black people weren't able to get home loans, weren't able to get, from the bank, weren't able to get home loans. And so that was
Yep.
keeping them out of certain areas. And so Omaha still feels the effects of redlining. So where, Black people predominantly live in North Omaha, white people live in West Omaha. And then you have a big Latino community in South Omaha.
Okay.
And so there's a big racial divide, right? And there's a big issue with um, people being able to understand people's perspective sides, hearing each other out, not being able to see that, hey, maybe my perspective or the way I do things isn't necessarily the right way. Maybe it's okay to do it differently, and they all be okay.
Hmm.
And so that's, I want to put that there so you can kind of see
Yeah.
the environment that I'm living in. So I grew up in a predominantly Black church, right? And so uh, I get to the point where I want to go to Bible college, but but it also like paired as a discipleship program. So it's a lot like Master's Commission.
Mm. Okay.
Um, and so basically you enter into this program, and this program, um, it's a very intensive program, right? A very intensive discipleship program where they kind of cut you off from the rest of the world. So it's no no rated R movies, right? No secular
Mm.
music, no dating, no like you got a curfew. You need to be here from this time to this time. We really don't want you to have a job because we want, we want basically all of you to
Like
be into this program.
immersion.
So yeah, complete immersion into our program and everything like that. And so um but it's a very predominantly like it's a very 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 white church, right? And so
Okay.
culturally everything just very very just no not a whole lot of understanding of where I'm from, what I came from, what I how I view things and everything like that. And so I felt a lot of opposition. Like there was things that like literally statement said to me, like the senior pastor one night from the mics told me I needed to stop being so Black. um
Oh boy.
yeah.
Yikes.
The youth pastor wanted to be Kimbo Slice for Halloween, so he put on full blackface to be Kimbo Slice for Halloween, and then proceeded to preach a message in full blackface. um the the
That's insane.
Yeah, yeah, it keeps happening, but there's more. Like the you worship pastor called me the N word, um, called me the N word several times, from the office, from all these different places. But these are all, and they're all related. So like
Mm.
the senior pastor is the father of the youth pastor and the worship
Oh,
pastor. They're
okay.
brothers. It's just all this thing, and so I'm in this program because I'm so immersed. I can't work. I can't do it. Like I'm literally like, if I leave this place, like I'm homeless, right? I don't have anywhere to go.
Uh-huh.
I'm cut off from my family. It's just a very weird situation, right? Um, and so, but there were just things like, Obama was elected president. They started making jokes about him being assassinated. They started talking about him being, Lucifer himself, like the Antichrist.
Yeah.
They started
Wow.
saying, so it was just uh, a lot of like like it wasn't even just like an ignorance thing. It was like almost an anti-Black
Yeah.
um
Agenda.
attitude, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
agenda. And
How
they were,
long was this program? I'm
so
like,
yeah, so the program was supposed to be 4 years. So then by the time you're done, it's like a college,
yeah.
you get your degree. We'll plant you in a church, whatever ministry track that you're in, we're going to get you to, whatever job. We're going to do everything
Oh,
we can to make sure you have that and everything like that. Cause I wanted to be a youth pastor at the time. And so, so yeah, they did a lot to try to break down that. There was they were putting up images of white Jesus. We would do like we would do these things called like human videos. They were like skits and plays and stuff like that that we would do in our services, and it would always pick, a white Jesus,
Right.
or somebody that was fair skinned to play Jesus. It was always a thing of like we just continuing to reinforce that, right? There's, making us like say the Pledge of Allegiance during the service. So there was just a lot of very like just a lot of things that weren't uh that weren't really representing him well, right? And so and that were really misrepresenting him. And so um I left the program, and I didn't realize like how traumatized I was by it, by everything, until actually a few years later. Like I didn't realize that it was affecting how I approached things, how I thought about things, how I felt about myself.
I mean, I
And
guess that's the point of immersion.
right,
I'm
right.
half traumatized sitting here.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, right,
like I
right,
can
right.
seriously
Yeah,
say right
yeah,
now. But anyway,
right, right. And so so it's one of those things where I didn't realize like how badly it affected me um, until the George Floyd protests started happening.
mm, mm,
Um, and the responses. So at this point, the George, it had been Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd by the time this happened. Now,
mhm,
like for me, because I work in my community and everything like that, like police brutality and violence and all that type of stuff was not it wasn't like a foreign concept. It wasn't something that we didn't already know about, right?
mhm.
But I think because sports are gone, movies are gone, everything like that. Now the news knows what the news is going to focus on this because
Sure.
they don't have nothing else to focus on,
Right.
right? So we don't have any distractions. These are things that had been going on, right? But now we don't have nothing else to cover. We're going to cover this. So they, with all the coverage now, churches kind of have no other option but to speak on it,
Mhm.
right? And so where I'm at, I'm actually planning. I'm in the middle of trying to plant a church, which is which was crazy. I was trying to plant a church in the middle of a pandemic, so it was a point
Wow.
where like we couldn't meet in person. We were doing a lot of everything was just online, right? And so. But there was a lot of pastors that I came into I made acquaintances with because I'm planning the church. Let me meet the other pastors in the city, all that type of stuff. And there was so much opposition
Wow.
from the pastors of like no, um you know uh Black Lives Matter is terrorists and they're this and they're that, and no, Black Lives don't matter, all lives matter, and all this. And George Floyd was a drug addict and a horrible person, and alluding to he deserved what happened to him, and
Mhm.
all this. A lot of these things started happening. I was just like, man, why is there just such a why is there such an opposition to blackness? It feels like from the like this feels weird. Like this feels like an underlying like issue, right?
Mhm.
Um, this feels like this has been dormant for a long time, and like
Mhm.
this has kind of brought a lot of these things to light. And so as it made me want to try to really like, man, should I like how do I unpack this? Where did this start? How did this happen? And then you look at, okay, well, this country in its inception, like had done this, right? This country when we talk about what how Christianity started here in America, it was used to reinforce slavery, right? It was
Right.
used um the Baptist church was one of the biggest supporters of segregation. um
I mean, there is
right
definitely an advantage to the people not being able to read,
right,
right?
exactly,
Because
right,
like
because then you could tell them, hey, this is what it is. You don't see that, oh, Hebrew or not even you don't see that. Okay, the slavery that you guys are alluding to was actually more like indentured servitude, right?
Yeah,
Like
right.
you don't get to we
Or
don't.
scriptures like there's neither bond nor free. We're not
Yes,
talking about
exactly.
that.
Yeah, that we're all equal. All these types of things. Like you're not getting that, right? It was just stuff, and uh, so when you see that, man, this is the root, right? This is the inception. This is how it started. Without that being addressed, right, and talked about, and us confronting the ugliness of it, like it's going to remain. Like how could that not be there, right? How
Mhm.
could that attitude not be there? How could it not be, still affecting in ways like, even the image of white Jesus, right?
Mhm.
There's no here's one thing we do know. He wasn't white, right?
Right.
We could figure out we could try to figure out like, oh, was he, maybe he was this dark, maybe all that stuff. But one thing we do know was that he was not a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white man, right?
Right.
But it was something that was continued. Why is that? Why are those images the most popular images that keep circulating?
Mhm.
Why do I, if I walk into the pastor's office, I see a giant canvas of white Jesus hanging from the cross? Why is this continued? Why is this able to continue going, right? um and you see that, no, even if it's a passive form, it's still a form of white supremacy. It's still a form of, um hey, I feel, whether you confront it in yourself or not, hey, I feel like this is the right way of doing things,
Mhm.
you know. I used an example in one of my videos. I said, if I came to you guys and I said that, um Jesus was a woman, you would chop my head off. You would go crazy on me, right? Because
Right.
why? Because you feel like I was misrepresenting who Jesus was,
Mhm.
right? So then when I use the notion of, when I buck against the notion that, hey, Jesus was not a white man, and there's a reason why his skin was changed to that, right?
Mhm.
There's a reason why that's the most dominant, uh uh, you know, uh, uh, presentation of him, right?
Right.
There's a reason for that. So when I say that, hey, we should represent him properly, I start hitting, we start ruffling feathers, right? And
Mhm.
and so I always say, hey, if me saying this bothers you, like, you can answer your own question by asking, hey, why was this happen? Why did this happen anyway? Because people will say, that's probably, for the people who like are against what I'm saying, the biggest argument I get is, hey, it doesn't matter. Why does it matter? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I say, hey, if you go and you ask yourself, why did this happen in the first place? I think you answer your own question on why it should matter.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely think that chipping away at lies is going to be a beneficial thing
mhm,
because it helps to get down to the essence.
right.
For me, because of just some of the racial breaches that I had,
Mhm,
um, I was able, and some of the ones that I didn't have.
mhm,
So, meaning not having the experiences that you have. I have had people so angry with me when I say I've never experienced racism,
mhm,
where it's like overt. The things you experienced are overt racism.
mhm,
And the fact that I haven't experienced it is a testament to what has happened over the years.
mhm,
Because, 50 years ago, I'm almost 50 years old, no Black person would have said they had never experienced racism.
mhm,
So we have made progress, but there are people so angry with me even for saying that. But yet, what happened to you happened,
mhm,
right? And so there are still things that need to be deconstructed
Right.
because
And those were just overt, right? Like we don't even get into what the microaggressions are,
right, right,
right?
right. Absolutely. And of course that there were things that happened to me. I graduated from Princeton University, so there were things that happened. I don't know if the person was racist or not. They could have been a jerk. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm,
it wasn't clear. So there's all that. I mean, so that's just a sin problem right there. But I don't know what was in their heart and where that
mhm,
all came from. So when you address things like what you're talking about, it can go to those places because the most important thing from my perspective about Jesus is that the power of Christ transforms a person.
mhm,
And if you don't have that, if you don't have that transformative nature of Christ, you do not have Christ.
mhm,
And we we use there are things that religion uses that keep people away from that happening,
mhm,
from actually having that transformative experience. And this can be one of those things.
mhm,
And so because for me, like, okay, I can read in the Bible that Jesus wasn't a woman, but because of the experience that I've had with Christ, what it's done in my life, those things, I don't even care. I'm at the place where he's neither Jew nor Greek nor this or that. But
mhm,
that has to happen.
mhm,
That experience has to happen. And those types of things shouldn't trigger you.
mhm,
It shouldn't, once you experience that, then it doesn't matter. But you can't say it doesn't matter when you're still treating people completely as the world does or
mhm,
anti-biblically. Then you're just covering up
mhm.
your behaviors with tradition
Right.
or, white nationalism or whatever some of those crazy things were, that you saw that obviously are still standing.
Mhm,
So I think that what people, um okay, say for me, someone that I say, like, it didn't matter to me what color Jesus was,
mhm,
right? But for someone with my experience, we have to understand that uh real Christianity holds up to the scrutiny.
mhm.
That's the important thing.
Right.
That's the powerful thing that we have to acknowledge. So we must allow the scrutiny
Mhm.
on the basis of people that, I mean, yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I
it's
love
that thing is
about
that we can't
having these
ignore
conversations.
right, exactly. We can't ignore the um so I'll give an example like this, right? So I just recently started, not recently, but over the last like couple of years I've been in therapy. And so there were things that like happened with my mom that um like my mom she's amazing. I love her. I think she's the best mother I could ask for, right? Um, and she's great. Like she's amazing. But there were things that came up like in therapy that I was like, oh, that really
Mm,
messed up, right? That
mhm,
that really
mhm.
hurt. That really that
Yeah,
you know. Um, and so does that mean that she wasn't an amazing mother, or it doesn't mean no, it doesn't mean that at all. But there are ugly things that have happened that should be talked about.
yeah, that's good.
It's unhealthy for us to just ignore all those things, right? Like,
That's
no,
that's so powerful.
yeah, we
That's
gotta,
so powerful
yeah, and so
because your mom was a human, I assume.
yes,
So
yes, right, right,
so
and
then it
so
should be okay
right.
that
We
she
so we
wasn't
shouldn't
perfect.
be right. We shouldn't just be like, oh, you're this is the wrong thing to focus on and everything. Like, no, like, and if it bothers you so much, if that should be something you should look into for yourself. And that's the other reason why like I enjoy the conversation, or that's the reason why I'm not like, just blocking everybody who just has something negative to say, because
Uh-huh.
I want you to see like, hey, if this if there's some feelings that come up because of this, like you should really unpack that and see why this bothers you so much.
Wow. So good.
Because if Jesus is who he says he is, right? And if you believe who he is, this shouldn't and you believe in how powerful he is, right? This shouldn't deter you.
Mm.
And if you believe that he's going to show up in the way that he says he's going to show up, as I do, really the whole purpose of this is really like we're breaking down lies, but I want people to actually see who he is,
So
right?
good. Yes.
And because because of how I've personally seen how this in particular has prevented people from actually getting this to see and know him for who he is. Not this thing of like, oh, he has to be not white for you to approach him, but no, addressing the addressing the audacity, right? And addressing the arrogance and addressing feeling so highly about yourself and your skin tone to where you had to change change everything about him to make him look like you.
Yeah.
So that you could hold power and hold supremacy over another person. Addressing that, because that's a part that has kept so many people from getting to know,
Yeah.
who he really is,
By
right?
seeing, yeah, the hypocrisy in it.
Right.
And frankly, what you've been through, and even then not having to do with race, but other spiritual abuse that you've
Mm-hmm.
endured in the, like, you shouldn't be a Christian either.
Right.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And
If
so
if yeah,
that's the
if
point, actually. I mean,
right.
that's why you're a great messenger for this, is that you show, listen, if it didn't keep me back,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be afraid to put this in your face, because Jesus can be to who he was to me when y'all were doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, like, I've come out yet a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is really the key.
Mm-hmm.
That is really the message of why we can talk about this.
Right.
Wow. That's very, very powerful.
That no,
Very
I
powerful.
appreciate you. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
appreciate you as well, and I will say, like, because again, everything is context. That's why we started out the interview where we did. I told you my context, you told
yeah.
me yours, and so, like, Black Lives Matter didn't make a lot of sense to me, but it's been, since all the fires and things have died down, I've actually seen several things that have been very positive about it. Um, and to me, what happened with one of the founders and her buying all those homes and things like that kind of proved it. But
Mm-hmm.
there were people that really believed in the cause and weren't just trying to, increase their net worth or whatever, um, that became active and became vocal, and is now like a real powerful force,
Mm-hmm.
that became activated and are very helpful in what's happening in society today. So, like, I'm just so happy to see that, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah, I think it's more of a kind of like how you said it. Like it's a nuanced thing, right? Because I think you could. For me personally, it was a thing of like, hey, I don't necessarily rock with the organization, right? Because you see the mismanagement of funds, you see how they kind of moved and everything like that. But definitely with the sentiment, right?
Hmm.
Of it's one of those things like somebody explained it to me in such a great way. But they use the parable um, of Jesus with the 99, right? The 99 and one.
Mm.
And when Jesus goes after the one who's in danger, the 99 aren't like, wait, don't we all matter? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, don't we, what about us? Don't we, you know, like, and it's
Right.
like, nah, like I'm shepherding all of you, but right over here, like what's happening over here, this sheep right over here is in danger. I'm going after
Right.
him. And so,
And if
uh,
some of the 99 actually kicked that one
yeah,
and like made them be all the way over
right,
there,
right.
then we're
I'm
probably going to have an issue when he comes back.
exact, right, 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 right. So, you know, so it's one of those things where it's like, when it's not a, we don't need a, when someone else, when there's a group of people who are in trouble, I don't understand why there's this thing of being like, why does that make you insecure? Like,
Yeah.
why is that, you know, yeah, so,
Well, the answer is we haven't been involved in each other's lives.
mhm,
We haven't been having the conversations. We've been in silos. And I think, honestly, I think America has been more of a melting pot now than it ever has been,
mhm,
just because more conversations are coming forward and we're not just so happy and comfy in our little silos, but we're having to like interface and face one another and face each other's pain and things like that. People becoming more comfortable talking about counseling and mental health
mhm,
and all of that. So but it's not without, you know, a little bit of boiling
right,
uh happening. But I do think it's a ton healthier
mhm,
than a bunch of stuff being under the rug. So I truly appreciate you coming on. I think I love the conversation about music. I hope it's inspiring. Guys, please share this out because I do think there's still people in sort of a mental space of thinking they need to be discovered or whatever, when they
mhm,
need to actually discover themselves
right,
and really begin to believe in themselves. And
right,
Jake Crum is someone who can help you do that with his company and everything. But then this conversation here more globally, I think very, very powerful. And just what I've always wanted is to, one of the things that I've always wanted to do, but really have had a hard time doing is engaging people that I've had a real different experience than, maybe even disagree with, and really showing how we can all benefit from that conversation and do in a healthy way. So thank you for jumping
yeah,
in with
no,
me.
I appreciate you having me on.
It's awesome. Awesome. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Guys, Simply Felicity, thank you for watching, for sharing, commenting. Thank you guys for all you do. And I will be back at our regular time, Wednesday lunchtime. I'll see you guys then.